Thank you for having me.
It's
Great
my
question.
utmost pleasure, sir.
Thank you. As far as the geopolitical ramifications, what the United States is finally supplying the Ukrainians, if you look at the first 3 years or 2.5 years of the war, it's been a drip, drip, drip of slowly supplying defensive munitions, defensive weaponry to stave off a full Russian invasion. It's just recently that we're seeing the United States start to say, well, you know what, maybe we should start looking at some offensive packages to help the Ukraine, particularly because we have to remember Russia has been using offensive weapons during the entire campaign to invade Ukraine and to take it over. And I think we can't lose sight of that. So when the US introduces offensive weapons, Vladimir Putin is always going to cry foul. He's cry foul when they introduce new airplanes, any type of new system that gets introduced into the conflict that weakens his hand, and he is dealing with a firepower and a manpower issue right now with the North Korean troops. He's going to start raising a stink about it, and that's what he's doing right now.
Okay, sir, you mentioned defense weaponry, full Russian invasion on Ukraine, and most importantly, the offensive package to help Ukraine. Could you please elaborate more about the offensive package to help Ukraine in this context?
Well, with the offensive package, I think what most people, when they associate an offensive package, and this has been talked about for years, for a couple of years now, about Ukrainian counteroffensives, going on a counteroffensive to take territory held by the Russians that's been taken. The problem with this is the offensive firepower that they've been given has not been enough. Additionally, the Russians have prepped the battlefield. They've been sitting in areas that they controlled for years now. We can go back to past conflicts that the Ukrainians apparently want to take. So it's very difficult to launch a counteroffensive. And it doesn't really matter how much firepower you have if the Russians have completely entrenched themselves, dug themselves in. Defensive power tells to Putin that we're serious, we're taking this seriously, and that we know you have a firepower issue, which has never been a problem with Russia post-Soviet Union. They are now falling into that problem because of the conflict in Ukraine, and you look at the conflict in Syria from 2015 to 2018, Russia's stretched. Putin is stretched. It's more of a messaging than an actual, I would say, tactical, strategic game changer.
Got you, sir. What are the implications of lifting restrictions on the United States supplied weapons for Ukraine's military strategy and national law, sir?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
Yes, of course, sir. What are the implications of lifting lifting restrictions on the United States supplied weapons for Ukraine's military strategy and international law?
Personally, I don't think there should be restrictions. Russia has several times, I mean, they annexed Crimea, they baloney sliced the most industrial part of Ukraine, and now they wanted to take the entire country with an assault on Kiev. That was the goal. The United States wanted to get Zelensky out of the country. They didn't want him to fight. So I think what people need to understand is that in the globe right now, there are three main players: Russia, Beijing, and Tehran. And they are working against the other countries, the civilized countries in the world. And Ukraine is central to this fight in pushing back Russia, in pushing back their ambitions. Because if it affects Russia, then it affects the Islamic Republic, and it also affects China as well.